Greetings from the sub-ether. This is Alan with another quick color basic video. Tonight I thought I would try to write a snake game like the old Nokia phones. These games, I think there was an arcade game called, what was it called? You ran around a maze, you ate things. Every time you ate something, your character got longer. I think it was called Nibbler, something like that. And Nokia phones had this game called Snake, and you drove around the screen. Every time you ate something for points, your snake got a little longer, and then it eventually became very difficult to drive around the screen. So I'm going to do a very simple simulation of that. I'm going to do this by poking things on the screen, so I'm going to be using memory location 1024 as the top left-hand corner. I know that 207 is a white block. I know that 191 is a red block. And I know if I clear the screen to 0, that is a 128. So those are the three characters I'm going to have on the screen. I'm not going to actually make points or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of do a proof of concept. So we start by knowing that our worm length is going to be 10 blocks long. And if you turn it into the top or the bottom of the screen, you'll die. If you turn it into yourself, you die. If you turn it into one of the enemy objects, you die. Very simple. So I need a way to remember where I've poked it on the screen, and I'm going to do that by having a variable called last location. And I'm going to hold up to 100 last locations. Actually, that's 101, 0 to 100. Doesn't matter. And every time I put it on the screen, I'm going to add the last location to this array so I can look back. If the worm length is 10, I can look back 10 spots and know what to erase. I'm going to start the worm out in the top left-hand corner of the screen, and I'm going to have an index in this array of 0. So when I first put them on the screen, last index is going to be 0. The next spot will be 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. I'm going to initially have a direction to move, and that's going to be 1. That's moving to the right. Location plus direction will be the new location. And I'm going to need a counter. When the counter gets up to a certain value, I'm going to increase the worm length. All right, we're going to start by clearing the screen to black. We're going to set some, we need to set some random objects on the screen for I equals 1 to 10, poke memory location 1023, which is just off the corner of the top left of the screen. And I'm going to add random 512. So it's going to add a value of 1 to 512 to that. That fills the positions. I'm going to poke that with my 191. And next, if I run line 50, you'll see that it just puts some blocks on the screen randomly. All right. 60, we're going to poke our location with a white block. That's our worm. Then we're going to remember this. Last location, location index equals L. Now I'm going to increment that last index by 1. And if the index is greater than or equal to the worm length, then I'm going to roll it back to 0. So if the worm length is 10, it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then back to 0. Line 80 is the erase index. This is which element in the array do I want to erase. So I'm going to start out by being 1 higher than where I am. Because if the array is filled with 10 objects and we rolled back to 0, well, I'm going to be erasing 10 plus 1. So the erase index is going to be whatever I just put in plus 1 past it. And then if that erase index is greater than the worm length, then it rolls back. So as I put in 0, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be trying to erase whatever's in position 4, whatever is ahead of me. So as I fill up this circular buffer, it's going to erase whatever's at the end. Now I have to do a check. If whatever's at the erase index is not a 0, because when it initially starts, they're all filled with 0. I don't want to start doing anything until it's got data. If it's not 0, then I can poke this last location erase index with 128, and that'll erase. So as I fill up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll try to erase 6. If that's empty, it does nothing. When I eventually roll over 0 through 9, it'll try to erase 10. That'll roll it back to 0. It'll erase 0. Clear as mud. Then I'm going to increment my counter. If my counter equals 10, then if the worm length is less than 100, I think this needs to be less than or equal to 100. If there's still room, No, actually less than 100, because I'm going to say then the worm length grows by 1. So every time we count to 10, we're going to grow it by 1. We're going to play a beep so we know it happened and reset this counter. 110. Let's read a key from the keyboard. We're going to do this manually. We're going to use the WASD configuration instead of the arrow keys. That way it can work on an MC10. If the user presses W, that means up, then the new direction is going to be 32 higher. That's one block up on the 32-column screen. If the user presses S, then direction is going to be 32 lower. You know, it'll go up by 1. Sorry, down on the screen. Negative 32 is up, positive 32 is down. Okay. If A string equals A, then direction is -1. If A string equals D, then direction is 1. So we're going to make a new location by saying the new location is the current location plus direction. So that's either going to be add 32, minus 32, add 1, minus 1. And so we'll check. If the new location is greater than 1023, meaning it's at least past the top left of the screen, then if new location is less than 1536, meaning it's at least left of the bottom right corner of the screen, then if peak of the new location equals 128, meaning it's an empty block we are allowed to move to, then our location is our new location, and we go to line 60. That's the poke, and we continue doing it. If those conditions aren't met, let's see, we can print the word crash and play a low sound. Let's see how we did. Syntax error in 90. How about we put a poke here because we're erasing. Let's try it again. We're moving to the right. Every time it beeps, it's increasing by 1. Now, right now, I can just, syntax error in 150. Okay, should probably look at this. Let's try it again. I can just keep going to the right. At some point, it's going to hit that red block. So I can just do that, move around it. But if I wanted to play the game and I was trying to go for objects, I would just need to detect blocks of different colors. I can drive it around. Now, if I keep trying to do this, each time it beeps, it gets longer. At some point, it's longer than the screen. And I can now... crash. I can't move up. So that trick works for a while, but pretty soon you're longer than the screen supports. And obviously, if I were to draw red bars around the screen, I could make it so you couldn't just go left to right. Yeah, okay. All right. It's a stupid game anyway. Okay. So I would only need to add a few more lines. Instead of increasing a counter, I could simply say when I'm peaking my new location, if it's a blue color, increase the length and increase the points by 10 points. Then I would poke a new dot on the screen for me to try to eat. So I could have objects of, say, red that killed me. I could be poking objects of blue, which, made me grow longer and gave me points, and so on. You could move them around, make them move around the screen. So there you go. That's a very simple worm game like Snake, something I just thought about tonight. I've never written one of these. I'm sure there's far better ways to do it, but it just seemed like it'd be a fun video. And I'll probably post this on my blog on subethasoftware.com. Anyway, hope you had fun with this. It was fun trying to figure out how to do this. Until next time, don't panic.